All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle two of the most critical ideas in all of cybersecurity. How do you actually spot the signs of an attack? And then what do you do to build up your defenses to stop it? For anyone working in security, you know getting these two sides of the coin right isn't just important, it's everything. You've probably heard this before, but it's the absolute truth. In cybersecurity, attacks are not a matter of if, they're a matter of when. So the real battle, it starts with being vigilant. Spotting those first tiny signs of trouble is what makes the difference between a minor headache and a total catastrophe. And it all begins with understanding indicators. So, what are we really looking for here? Well, we're on the hunt for what are called indicators of malicious activity. You can think of these as the first little alarm bells, the subtle clues telling you that something is just not right on your network. Now, on their own, they might not be proof of a full-blown attack, but they are signals that you absolutely positively cannot ignore. I love this analogy because it just breaks it down perfectly. Okay, so think of an indicator as your smoke detector, right? It goes off. Maybe it's just some burnt toast, a false alarm, or it could be a real fire. Now, malicious activity, that's like seeing the actual flickering flames. You know something is wrong for sure, but you don't know how bad it is yet. And the cyber attack? Yep, that's the house fire. It's the full-blown deliberate event that's causing some serious damage. A classic indicator, and a really obvious one, is something called impossible travel. Just imagine this. You see a login from your account in London. Okay, then 5 minutes later, just 5, another login from Tokyo. Unless you've suddenly figured out teleportation, that's a massive red flag that your credentials are out in the wild. And right along those same lines, we've got concurrent session usage. This is when your account is logged in and active from, say, New York and Paris at the exact same time. It's another one of those no-way moments that tells you someone else is definitely using your account. You also have to keep an eye on your system's performance. You know, a sudden weird spike in CPU usage, memory, or network traffic that you just can't explain, that can be a huge telltale sign that some kind of malware is running in the background, or an attacker is actively doing, well, something they shouldn't be. And oh yeah, the list of clues just keeps going. You have to ask yourself these questions. Why is this user's account locking out over and over? Could be a brute force attack. Why are we seeing tons of attempts to access blocked websites? That might be malware trying to call home. And the logs? Are they showing up at bizarre hours? Or worse, have they just vanished? That is a classic sign an intruder is trying to cover their tracks. Okay, so you've learned to spot the smoke. You see the signs. But what do you do when you see it? How do you stop those little flickering flames from turning into a raging inferno? This is where we make the switch from just detecting the problem to actively defending against it. So now we're going to get into mitigation techniques. These are the strategies, the tools, the controls we put in place, not just to prevent attacks, but to seriously reduce their impact if one actually gets through. Think of this as your active defense toolkit. You know, the foundation of any really strong defense comes down to a few core ideas. We have to segment our network. We have to control who gets access to what. We've got to keep everything patched and up to date. And of course, we need to be constantly monitoring for those indicators we just talked about. Network segmentation is one of the most powerful defensive moves you can make. Seriously, think of your entire network like a huge ship. Segmentation is like building sealed, watertight bulkheads into that ship. So if one compartment gets breached, if it starts taking on water, the leak is contained. It stops the whole ship from sinking. In the digital world, it's a total game changer for stopping an attacker from just wandering freely all over your network. Next up is the principle of least privilege. And this is as simple as it is powerful. It means you don't give anyone access to anything they don't absolutely need to do their job, period. That way, if an attacker gets a hold of a standard user's account, the damage they can do is incredibly limited. It's the difference between them getting a key to one hotel room versus the master key to the entire building. Okay, let's zoom in a bit and talk about hardening your endpoints. We're talking about your servers, your laptops, your desktops. These are often the front lines of your digital defense, right? So we have to make them as tough to crack as possible. Two key tools for this are the host-based firewall and the host-based intrusion prevention system, or HIPS for short. The easiest way to think about it is this. A firewall is like a simple gatekeeper. It just checks a list and blocks traffic based on some preset rules. A HIPS, on the other hand, is more like an active, intelligent security guard. It doesn't just check IDs at the gate. It analyzes behavior inside and can actually step in to stop a threat it spots. And here are some absolute must-dos for hardening any system. Look, close any network ports you aren't using. Every open port is just another door for an attacker. Change every single default password. So many of them are public knowledge. Get rid of any unnecessary software to shrink your attack surface. And finally, patch, patch, patch. Unpatched systems are one of the biggest welcome mats for attackers. Now let's talk about protecting the data itself. Because what if an attacker gets past all your other defenses? Encryption is your last, and you could argue your best line of defense. It's the digital deadbolt that makes sure even if they get in, the data they steal is completely useless to them. And there are several really powerful ways to do this. You've got full disk encryption with tools like BitLocker, which basically locks down everything on a drive. Then there's the Trusted Platform Module, or TPM. That's a special little hardware chip that securely stores your encryption keys. It basically ties the data to the physical computer, meaning a thief can't just snatch the hard drive, plug it into another machine, and read your data. And finally, self-encrypting drives build this protection right into the hardware from the start for top-tier security. So what's the big takeaway from all this? If there's one thing to remember, it's that good security, well, it's not a product you can just buy or a project you can finish. It's a continuous, never-ending process. It's all about constant vigilance and constant improvement. And this right here is the essential cybersecurity life cycle. It's a loop. You constantly monitor for indicators. When you see something, you analyze and detect potential threats. Then you apply mitigations to shut them down. And based on what you just learned, you harden and improve your defenses. And then the cycle begins all over again. It truly never, ever stops. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. In a world where attackers are always getting smarter and threats are constantly changing, what's the one part of your defensive mindset, that one core principle or practice that you will simply never compromise on? Thanks for joining me.